Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's a mic and a slipper. Or you'd be in, give me something.
Yeah, I was waiting to see it.
Yeah, they lecture us so much more during this training, started in on time, and it's where there's so many people here that have. Picture my mom. I'll say that. Not here, like in this office, just like Keller Williams in general. Well, very conscientious, so when people are just like, Keller. Might get it if it's like major stuff going on. Yeah.
I can't see today, so I have to wear
There's some days that I'm like, my eyes must just be tired. I cannot see as well as I can other days. So, for the, I introduced myself already, but I'm Jennifer Baldwin. So we're gonna be teaching this today. I realized as I was going through and prepping for this is gonna move very quickly.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of information and it still wants to be done in an hour and a half. So if I start moving too quickly, let me know. I will stop and ask for your guys' input at different points, so. There's not as many activities, but keep up in your guide, write down what you need to. I've got some printouts, if you've got a printout, do you want a bigger? We've got one here for you. Well, you can buy the whole book. But each one you come to, we should have this for you, because the whole book is huge. I mean, this is the book. So it's a big one, so not everybody buys it. Do you have the book, or do you need a one?
No, ma'am, I'll take the pen, yeah.
Get another person in, I'm sending one of you out to take copies. Too, because I was like, I don't know how many people will show up, and I don't like to waste paper, so.
Yeah. Yes.
And I'll hold on to it, but then next year I'll teach a different class, or they'll change it again. So they can do that to us. All right, what's your name?
Tasha.
Tasha?
Yes.
I'm Jennifer Baldwin. Lori,
Right.
and sorry, remind me of your name. Janet, okay. I'm horrible with names, so now we all know each other. All right, so today we're gonna move into our transaction series. We've covered winning with the seller and buyer, and now we're gonna move on to talk about how you work with your clients once you have a signed agreement. So we've worked really hard, we've lead generated, we've got to a point where we have signed agreements, now what do we do? So that's what we're gonna talk about today. So we're gonna talk about some general information in about the first half hour, then we'll have about a half hour for buyers and a half hour for sellers. It's telling them this is gonna move quickly. So I will try to remind of page numbers, but if someone else can help me with the page numbers as we go, that would be helpful too, so we don't fall behind. All right. Has anybody done any lead generation over the last week or so that they would like to share? I know you're not licensed yet, but any?
Well, I just passed a week ago. so-
Congratulations.
I'm over the place nervous and don't know what, I still haven't had my second part of the orientation yet,
Okay.
so,
Well, if you're interested after class today, I am gonna stay and do role play and lead gen.
okay.
And it's really gonna be interesting because I forgot my computer, so I'm gonna show you all how to improvise when you forget something you normally have when you're doing this. So if you want to stay, you're welcome to. We'll do go up to 2 hours if people are here and want to do it.
Okay.
So and I'm gonna do that on Wednesday after the class also. So if you can't stay today and you want to play on Wednesday, I will be there for that too. So I need that as part of, I'm going towards Keller Williams faculty, and I need to do that part of the class too as part of the training, so. All right, so we'll talk about, I'd love to go more into lead gen, but we'll skip through that and save a little bit of time in here, and we'll move on to what the agenda is for today. So by the end of this, my goal for you is to have you be able to identify key information to build success with buyers and sellers, employ strategies to assist buyers and sellers in making decisions, and build a strong success foundation relationship with your clients and the other agent. So that's the part that a lot of people do forget about. And that's why I want to make sure we get through all of this, because other agents throw in at the end. I think it should be earlier on. So I tell you, a horrendous transaction I'm going through right now with manufactured home and 5,000 things they wanted us to do. And literally 5 o'clock on Friday, they're asking me for additional information. We were supposed to close on Friday. It's moved to today. But me and the other agent, great relationship. Me and the engineering company and the processor on the other side, we've had some words. But you know, we have to get things done, and we're closing. So it happened. This was a very strenuous transaction, but we never got into it with me and the other agent never got into it. It was just, wasn't his fault. Processor was just not using common sense. So, I can go into more about that if you guys want to hear, but manufactured homes, call me. I've got everything under control now. I know exactly how to do it and what red flags to look for. All right. So when you think about kind of working with buyers and sellers and working with other agents, is there any questions that immediately pop in your head that you want to make sure we address today? Yes, ma'am.
I know just recently in the Connect Teams apps, I've been seeing a lot of people put in there, I have the listing for $400,000. Is anyone available to do an open house? That would be the seller, that would be, the person putting that in there is representing the seller, right?
Correct. Yep.
And one of us will be able to come on and represent the buyer, is that how that?
Well, what that works, open houses typically, it is to sell the house.
Yeah.
So never doubt that. You can sell a house in an open house. It does happen. But typically when you volunteer to do an open house, you're trying to pick up buyers that aren't represented yet. So yes, the ideal setup would be you meet a buyer there, they want to make an offer on the house, you represent the buyer. Yeah, you are not representing the seller when you're doing an open house necessarily. So that makes sense.
Mhm.
Great opportunities for that. I would shadow a couple people first before doing it on your own. So ask around who's good at open houses and shadow a couple of them. I'm not an open house person. Like I've been doing this 18 years. I'm like, passing on to other people. Every once in a while they're like, oh, I've got a $2 million listing. I'm like, I'll do the open house. Why not? That'll be fun. You know, but I'm like, it's not a practice. It's a big part of my practice.
Okay,
I do it more to just kind of have a quiet Sunday afternoon. So
can't wait till I get there.
it takes a while. It's a lot of hard work that's gotten me to where I'm at. All right, so that's a big one. Yeah, we'll kind of go through like who represents who, how things work, and yeah, we'll give you kind of an introduction today. So it'll be interesting, very interesting. Does anybody want to read on the bottom of 16-3 the quote that's there?
I'll go.
All right, we'll get you for the next one, Lori. I saw your hand start to go up.
Virtually every top producing agent we have ever worked with has a deep and almost inherent sense of service. They have a servant's heart and place their buyers or sellers' real estate experience above all else. They are always thinking service.
Thank you for that. I just realized that I thought I was clicking forward and it's not. I'm gonna use the mouse today because we're like 3 in and it was not going forward. All right, so that quote basically tells you that it's when you become a top producing agent, you really have to work through, you have to understand how to work with people. We talk about, yeah, we do sales. We are selling houses, but to sell those houses, the relationship is what really matters. So that's what we're going to focus on is building. You got to build those relationships, and it's a relationship with your client. It's a relationship with their lender. It's a relationship with the other agent, relationship with your brokerage. It's all about relationships. And you're talking about networking. Networking's a big part of it. Building my network was tough. It took a long time to figure out where I fit in. So I've got a few different groups I belong to, and professional and personal, and it's helped a lot to build my network and build my clientele. But it took years for it to start paying off. I had to start telling people I was actually an agent. It's amazing how that works. So the point in the transaction we're going to focus on today is a time between getting a signed buyer or listing agreement and signed buyer or listing agreement and that receiving or making an offer. So they'll go over like what to do once you get an offer tomorrow, but we're going to kind of take you between those two. Like, yay, they signed my buyer agreement. Now what do I do? And yay, I've got a listing agreement. What do I do now? So that's where we're at today.
Yeah, thank you very
So it's not about the ignites. It goes through step by step. It's not big leaps in it. All right. So the key to success with clients is communication. Gonna say that again. The key to success with clients is communication. That is probably the number one failure or number one complaint I ever have if I deal with another agent that is not doing well, is that it's their lack of communication, or a mortgage person or a title company. Communication is key in all relationships in this business. Great communication is a foundation for all great relationships. Like I just said, they're trusting you with what's likely their biggest purchase of their life. Now, if their car is worth more than their house, you know where their priorities lie. It happens. I've sold houses to people when they're driving a car. I'm like, I think that car costs more. And I have to look it up and check, like, oh yeah, it did. People do have their priorities. And it's a huge change in their lives. So we're going to be on page 16-3 here if you guys are behind it all. You need to make sure you communicate in certain times during the transaction that are priorities. Should be more than just this, but there should be certain times, sorry. Sometimes I look at the book and I'm like, wait a minute, I'm off. Not off. Okay, there's a word. So when you're in your communication, it should always provide a strong foundation. You need to start off like when I go under contract or getting ready to write an offer with somebody, with a buyer, I'm gonna call the other agent. Again, I'm gonna talk to them, get to know them a little bit, see if they'll give me any information about it. Agents love to talk, so if you want to get information about a house, just get the agent talking. Or do what I did yesterday and send my client to the open house and have them ask all the questions to the other agent that I would have asked. I think that agent was a little confused. It's like, are you an agent or not? But you need to build a strong foundation. So by starting that off at the beginning is great. You need to make sure people know what your communication style is, how you're going to handle things, that type of thing. You want to set and manage expectations throughout the transaction. That is a very, very important part. When you're talking to your clients, you need to let them know what happens next. And timelines and ideas of things that could go right or wrong. And don't say like go through the whole transaction. You want to, typically what I do, I'll go through kind of like the whole transaction. And then as we're going through it, I'm going to remind them of the different steps throughout the transaction. So the general ideas at first, and then we're going to get into the details. Does that make sense? All right. And then you want to create peace of mind for your client. So basically you're like, okay, this is inspections. Yes, they are the number one reason that deals fall apart. But I'm going to tell you what we're going to worry about in an inspection, what we're not going to, and how we're going to negotiate it. And I'll take care of all the hard stuff where you just got to figure out what your priorities are. And these are the main things we're going to look for, that type of thing. So it kind of takes that pressure off of them. Yeah, you're acknowledging it could fall apart, but I'm going to guide you through step by step. And then the next step is the seller can answer several different ways. They could say, I'm not doing anything. It does happen. And you can choose whether or not you're willing to move forward under those circumstances. They could agree to do some or none. They could offer money instead. There's a lot of different things they could do instead of actually doing the repairs you want. So in your mind too, is like you may request 5 different things to be fixed, but do you know which one's the most important to you? Make sense? So giving them peace of mind is basically reassuring them that you do know what you're doing and you're going to take care of them. And then also that will enhance your credibility too. The more you tell them about what's going to happen and the more you're consistent in doing that, they're just going to be like, this was easy. They told me this was going to happen. This is what happened. No surprises. I'm good. Never want a surprise when you're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's not fun. Yeah.
Just a comment. I know when, I'm working with buyers and I often work with new buyers.
Mhm.
One of the, I think, things that you have to weigh out, I think, is how much information to give out when, because trying to be thorough can just often be way too overwhelming. So my background is as an educator. So what I kind of did after the first couple of years of experience with this was put together a packet of information for them in a whole folder. And then after we've seen the first house together, we sit down, maybe have a coffee or something. And then I'm able to present that folder with all that information. We hit a couple highlights and then they take the folder with them. And then as we move through the process, when I call them to touch base, I say, hey, grab your folder because we're now on this part of the process where the details are written down and we can talk the detail about it then. So they sort of have an overview, but you're not talking about all the details of the overview the very first time you meet with them, which is so overwhelming. And I also know now, again, you guys are newer agents. I've been in it a little bit, but when I first got started, we didn't have to sign that buyer's agreement at the first time that we meet. And now we do. So that's a whole nother thing that has to be explained. So I think developing something that's comprehensive, but isn't overwhelming is tricky, but I think it's part of it. How to give the right information at the right time is something that I think is important in addition to what you're saying, that you sort of develop a feel for and make a plan for.
Yeah, and also different personality types. Some people want it all up front because that's their personality types. Other people like, okay, can't handle it. Just tell me the next step.
I agree. That's why I feel like it's nice to have something in print. So you can touch base on all of it, but for the person that wants to know everything up front, then they can take it with them and read it all and give you a call that night for details or not. So you kind of encompass different styles.
At my buyer consultation way I do it. And I always do the consultation before the showing because I'm not gonna just make them sign an agreement without going through it. So we go through the buyer's agreement, all that kind of stuff, but they do leave what they call it's a buyer's packet. So it's got the details of every step of the transaction. I don't touch on all of this. But the biggest part of my buyer's consultation is what I'm gonna do for them and what I need them to do for me. Remember, it's a two-way relationship. I need them to call me when they're going to an open house, so I don't get a surprise call from an agent. I need them to let me know if they're interested in new construction so that I can get them registered as a new construction buyer. For you newer agents, if you don't tell the company that they're going to look at, you could lose out on being a part of that deal. So new construction, you have to register your buyers. I need them to always treat me as their representative because they're hiring me to do this. And that's what the buyer's agreement does for you. It actually walks you through that. So it's good to actually have a true consultation before running out and showing houses. Back in the day, yeah, it was crazy. And I did actually use buyer's agreements before they were required. I did it at first contract. When we were actually writing a contract, they would sign the buyer's agreement. But that buyer's agreement did not include compensation. So it was a different world. So any other questions or comments on that? Thanks for sharing that. It's always good to hear what other people are doing. All right. So in addition to these 4 underlying ideas, your communications need to convey, oh, sorry. A lot of these things, I'm like, it's not how I speak, but they want me to actually read some of this. In addition to the 4 underlying ideas, you need all your communications with your clients to convey. Let's remind ourselves of the 3 levels of service from the Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Has anybody read that book? Highly, highly recommend it. Now it's working. It wasn't working before. Now it's randomly working. All right, that'll work. All right. So the 3 levels of service are purpose. Masters of service have a clear understanding of why they should be hired and can articulate it to anyone at any time. The elevator speech is what you kind of think of there. So when asked, why would I hire you as a real estate agent? You should know how to answer that. Lori, why should I hire you?
Well, I'm gonna be able to navigate you successfully through the entire process from start to finish. You'll know everything every step of the way. As we get through the various points of negotiation, I'll explain to you what those are so that you'll be able to make the right decision, and I'll be able to represent you in that right decision and bring everything all the way through from seeking properties to closing them.
Very good. I put you on the spot there. You could have said
Yes.
like, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
But very good. You see, she
My
came
mind
up with
for
it.
A split second, for sure.
Yeah, and that does happen. And you've got to be able to articulate why you're good at it. And what I did like that she never said, I've been doing this for this long. Because you guys, there's brand new agents, you don't have to share that.
Yeah.
And if someone asks you, yeah, I'm newer in the business, but I've got a great team behind me that can help if there's something that I'm not as familiar with. So you've got a great brokerage here. You've got a great support team. I'm on the Chabris group, so I've got a great support team there. So like this morning, I'm like, okay, I need transaction coordinator. Can you deal with this agent? Because I'm going to be teaching for the next hour and a half and I don't want to miss something. So she's like, I got it. I'll let him know to reach out to me. And I can see they've been communicating. I didn't put my phone on do not disturb because I'm trying to make sure we're really closing at 2 o'clock today.
Yeah, you're never closing today, so you do have to keep that.
Yeah, so normally I would not be even looking. I always had 2 clients already message me too, and I'm like, I'll get back to them later. But so purpose is very important. You have to know what your purpose is. And I'm a very detail oriented person. Anybody that knows me knows that. They also know I'm extremely direct. So I've learned that over time that I will have to ask if I can be direct with people because sometimes they don't want to hear it. But if I kind of warn them I'm going to be, it's better because I don't know another way to communicate things. Beating around the bush, I get lost in what I'm saying. So I'm like, I'm going to tell you exactly what's going on and what I believe the solution is, or ask what you think the best solution is, depending on the situation. So like what I was talking about with that manufactured home. They needed to be manufactured homes are basically a pre-built home set onto a foundation. So it's brought to the place already completely built or mostly built. So when they do that, they have to tie that house to the foundation. So they do what they're called tie downs. Well, when those tie downs break, there's very few people that are actually licensed to fix them. So I did not realize this. Things that we learn as we go through 18 years in, I'm still learning things. So we had to have those tie downs fixed and find somebody that could do it. And then have a structural engineer go back out and verify they were done correctly. Yeah.
Is that expenses out of whose pocket? Like
The seller.
Seller.
Yeah. The buyer actually didn't request any of it. It came up because on a manufactured home, you also have to have what they call HUD plates on the interior and exterior of the home. The interior ones were not there any longer, so we had to have it recertified as being on a true foundation. When the structural engineer came out to do that part, that's when they found the tie downs. So,
Different set of hidden defects in a setting
Mhm.
like that than what we're used to encountering after inspections of it.
yeah, there was no inspection, so that they never would have been found out. And that my person, I believe they never knew because he does not like enclosed spaces, so he'd never been down in the crawl space. He's shown a light down there just to make sure it wasn't full of crap because the house was kind of hoarded before he renovated it, but that's all he did. So, yeah, so nobody knew.
Yeah.
Luckily, my clients trust me and they actually gave me a great review that said I was a godsend. So, I'm happy. Actually, they texted me that and I said, hey, by the way, can you put that in a review? And I sent them the link for my reviews. Hey, gotta take a hint. When they're that happy and they're that appreciative of you, ask for the review. And we will actually get into that as well. And value proposition, we kind of got into that. Purpose and value proposition are kind of mixed together. Best agents can translate their purpose can translate their purpose and why people should hire them into a specific set of services they will provide. And she kind of got into that, got into a little bit of details that I'm going to walk you through this. I'm going to give you the information. Basically, she said, I'm going to hold your hand and be there if you have any questions. It works. That is her value proposition. Fiduciary. Fiduciary is one of these things that I don't think people totally get until that first time that they desperately need that money and they're canceling a contract, especially late into the game when something's come up, financing fell apart. Seller refused to close. Yeah, there's been interesting ones. So when you're your fiduciary for somebody, what that means is that you're going to put their needs above your own. Doesn't matter that you may not make your mortgage payment or your car payment or have money to go to the grocery that week. I know it sucks, especially those agents that work on their own. I've been lucky. My husband's always carried our bills at like our essentials. I've always paid for the extras.
Not here.
Yeah, it's been nice as we've gone along. It's been really nice because now the extras are bigger. So like it's fun. Like we've got horses and we could go travel and we get to do all these fun things and yeah, it's very cool. So it did work well that he was able to make enough money to cover the day-to-day stuff and then I pay for the extras. So, but being a fiduciary, it can be very difficult because if it does affect you very personally, it is hard to walk away. It's hard to say that that is the best option. Or maybe your client, like they were looking at $500,000 houses and they realized they wanted a $100,000 condo instead. Like, oh, that would have been my biggest sale ever. But you've got to honor what they want. The seller just decides it's not time to sell and needs to pull their house off the market. It's sad, but you got to do what matters most for them, not for you. That makes sense? So it'll make more sense that first time you have to do. Have you been in a situation where you had to make that decision?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not fun, but you do feel better for knowing you did the right thing.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, so in here in your books on 16-4-4, I can't remember how it's written on there. I think I keep going back and forth on how I write it. So
Yeah.
they've got a whole chart there about functionary versus fiduciary. So fiduciary, as we just talked about, when you operate as a fiduciary for your clients, you earn the right to be their expert of choice. So when you truly represent them in that way, you're earning that right. And could you tell me the difference of what the difference between a functionary and a fiduciary is? I mean, you've got a chart in front of you, so it kind of is cheating, but does anybody want to kind of just throw out their idea of what you would call a functionary agent versus a fiduciary agent?
Maybe the functionary is what you're going to do, what you can do, like physically, and
Tasks.
fiduciary is more I want to say intellectual or like your responsibility.
It makes sense, yeah. And that's a lot of it I'd look at is anything that's functionary, I can probably have someone else do and not affect their view of what I'm doing. So my transaction coordinator does 90% of my functionary type things. So she doesn't negotiate inspections for me. She doesn't schedule appointments for me. There's things she doesn't do, but what she does, well, she does schedule closing, but with everybody, she reaches out and coordinates it all. But it's functionary because it's making sure that the agent sheet's filled out for the title company. I had an invoice I needed added on, so I sent it to her, like, can you get this over to them and make sure that this is added on to the closing statement? She does things that are functionary and respond, and kind of just responds to things that need to be done versus thinking ahead on what else is gonna happen next. Does that make sense? That's kind of one of the ways that I look at it. So we kind of go through this list a little bit, some of the things that, kind of stuck out to me a little bit is, on one side it says they stay out of the decision making. I'm like, they're just passing on, functionary is passing on information, not necessarily helping make decisions. So kind of like you were saying, you're not doing the more detail. Someone that is fiduciary, they educate and guide, they own the result. Even when it's not a great result, owning the result is, taking responsibility is a big thing, being accountable. They use their judgment and their intuition. They're self-directed, so basically they don't need somebody else to tell them what to do, they're looking ahead to what they need to do. And the higher functioning agents, the ones that are making a lot of very good money over time, the ones, I say functioning, which is probably not the right word to use there when we're doing this chart, but the ones that are very successful, they have a system that they're using on a day-to-day basis. I have a system I use on a day-to-day basis. Sometimes I struggle with consistency. That's my biggest issue, but when I'm in it, I can get things done very effectively and get everything done. And got up this morning, got my yoga in, took a shower there, came here, went through some emails, responded, let people know I wouldn't be available that might be reaching out to me. And now I'm ready to teach. So I've got a system I have to work when I'm doing different things. Any questions on that?
Yeah, what's it mean by the tells and sells under the functionary? Tells.
It means that they're gonna, this house is 4 bedrooms and 2 baths, it meets all your needs, let's write an offer.
Okay, so that person.
Versus, what do you feel about this house? Do you think this is gonna meet your expectation, or does this meet your expectations? Do you think this is gonna be a house your family can live in? What are your concerns? And see, the difference is that they're saying, you said you want a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, this is it, let's do it. And I can be that direct. If if I know it's the right house, I will do that. And it's kind of funny, I'll do it sometimes just to get their attention. They're like, what? I'm like, I'm just kidding. But it just redirects their thinking sometimes when I see them start to overthink things. So, make sense? All right, it's a good list to look back at if you're ever kind of wondering, if you get to the point, that's one of the big steps in that Keller Williams will teach you, is starting to go from being entrepreneurial to being purposeful. That's why I don't really need a showing partner at this point in my career, but I want to need them. So I'm hired him early on so I can start training him to be that showing partner I want him to be. So that was my thought process. So I'm not quite there yet, but I'm hoping to be there before long. All right, so this part is not in your book. And they kind of went through a bunch of detail on this. Dual agency. Always kind of like the white elephant in the room for a lot of agents. Dual agency is completely legal in the state of Ohio. If you're in the state of Indiana, it's called limited agency, which I think actually is a better description. When you're acting as a dual agent, you are limited in your ability to represent either side. So you've got to really debate whether or not, as a brand new agent, I don't recommend it. Because you're just starting to learn how to represent someone, and now you're going to try to figure out how to represent both people. Because you are limited on what information you can share between the parties. You're limited on, they're negotiating inspections. You can't help them negotiate that, because you're going to be negotiating against one of the sides. Does that make sense? So you've turned almost more functionary than fiduciary in that situation, because you've got to get the paperwork through, you've got to make everything happen, and you can't over advise on one side or the other. So I've done dual agency plenty of times. If the situation calls for it, I will make it happen. But it is with wide open eyes. I've been doing this a long time, and I'm extremely careful on what I'm saying to both sides. So
how does that come about?
I'll give you the 2 examples of the last 2 that came up for me. One was I had a listing on a house that was right next door to a church. They lived there actually since she was a baby, because her dad's house is next door. This was grandma's house that she ended up buying and renovating. that would end up being not big enough for them. They were getting ready to have another kid, they wanted to move. That when they listed it, the church next door decided they wanted to buy it. So they introduced me to the church people, and with wide open eyes, the church just said, it'll be easier if we don't bring in another agent. Can you just represent both sides? I reached out to the seller, they said, that's fine. I made sure I told them, like, you realize I've known this girl since she was a baby. Her mom used to babysit my children. Like, so I've got a long-term relationship with her. I will balance it as best I can. And we can move it forward. They were both fine with it. It closed, everybody was happy. And I knew it would be easy because these people, I mean, they're buying under commercial loan. It's a whole different type of transaction. Another time it came up, I had a listing. A buyer called me up and wanted to come in unrepresented. That's a term that is now a thing. He wanted to be an unrepresented buyer, wanted me to show him the property. Like, that's fine, no big deal. Showed him the property. He wanted a lot more questions answered than I was able to answer for him as an unrepresented buyer. So I told him, I said, look, you've got a couple of options here. You can hire me as your agent as long as I've already talked to my seller at this point. She's okay with me being a dual agent if you are. I did not know this seller previously. It was an online lead. I did beat out 6 other agents to get hired, so I was kind of proud of that. But she was an online lead, so I didn't have a personal relationship with her, other than it took her forever to get the house ready. So we communicated for a long period of time. I said, if she's okay with it, so I can act as a dual agent. You can continue to be unrepresented, but understand I can't answer these questions for you. I can't do that. I said, or you can bring in another agent. But my seller has allowed me to share this information. She's not sure she's willing to pay another agent to be involved. And that was from my seller. And on our listing contract, it was negotiable whether or not she would pay a buyer's agent. But she was willing to pay me. So she really liked me in the end. I worked really hard for her. So he did decide at that point that he wanted to hire me as his agent. So, and we still have a good relationship. So it was a little tricky. But we were hiking, it was 8 acres of property. We were hiking the property, kind of checking it out. We ran into a family of skunks. Didn't like get sprayed or anything, but we saw them. They're in a tree trunk. So it's just kind of funny. Like, one of the things you will never forget because it was unusual. So for closing, I bought their daughter what I thought was like a little stuffed skunk. And I always tell them, like, and I walk into close, I tell them, so you remember how I told you when we're going through this? Always read really carefully. Well, apparently I need to take my own advice. The skunk was that big. I said, I ordered it online. I went to pick it up and it was like, oh, no wonder it was $30.
Too scary for the kid.
Oh, the kid loved it.
Yeah,
Yeah, that she used it as like a pillow and like she thought it was the coolest thing ever. So yeah, it was funny though. I was like, okay, yeah, it's a little side story there. But just when talking about dual agency, just if you're something that you're being asked to do, I would make sure you guys have productivity coaches here, you've got leaders here. Talk to somebody if you're not sure. Have you ever done dual agency?
Yeah, I did it one time about 1.5 years ago, and I've had the opportunity a couple of other times. But I do think it kind of has to be looked at on a case by case basis, situations. I think if you're guided by the ethics of representing usually you're linked up already with the sellers by the time a buyer comes along that you could represent, creating the dual environment. So if you are committed to the sellers and are in a fiduciary frame of mind, then some situations are going to come up where you realize it's just too much of a compromise for them. And even if you have to get their permission, obviously, a lot of times if they don't have a very clear understanding, they may grant the permission and then regret it later. So I think you just have to look at how likely is the situation going to be to get kind of sticky, and can I really, like she's already pointed out, it's hard to represent both sides. You have to step back and be less than fiduciary if you're going to be in a dual position. And if the situation doesn't lend it to that in a way that you feel ethically good about it, then, I think it's okay to say to the buyers, or if you say your clients don't agree to it, or if they agree to it, but you don't feel like it's going to be successful, then you could say to the buyers, I can't represent you, but I can recommend someone who can. And then you can find an agent that you trust already here at Keller Williams 7 Hills.
And get a referral fee back.
And yeah, you'll get a bit of a fee for that. So you'll make a little money that way, and then you get out of that situation and you don't lose the trust of the sellers that you built the rapport with.
Yeah.
So
And you'll
that's
probably actually increase trust.
Yeah. I
Because you
think
were
it's-
honest with them that I don't think I can do this does not feel right to me. I don't feel like I can do this in this situation.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think people do appreciate that, not just the honesty, but I think the way the world has been going, I think people are fearful that they can't trust what they're being told. And I think when they see someone playing it out, when they know that, hey, this agent's giving up making more money to do the right thing for me,
Right.
then not only do they trust you for the rest of the transaction, but they're likely to use you again or recommend you, so.
If
You
they're
know,
gonna
I
share
think-
that story that she had the option, like I share it all the time, well, they're gonna share that story all the time. She had the option to make more money and she turned it down because she wanted to make sure she took care of us.
Yeah,
I always say, I've got a plumber that I am so loyal to because I brought him in when we bought our house and I had this elaborate plan of what I wanted to do to our shower and he's like, that's absolutely stupid. All you gotta do is replace this handle. I'm like, okay, he's like, and you can do it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was, I'd have to go, it's hard to explain if you can't see the whole thing, but basically he turned down what would have, he could have done what I asked him to do, but
Right.
it would have been a lot of work and it would have been expensive. And he's like, it's not what you wanted. What you really want is just this look. You don't need to do all of this just to get this one look.
yeah,
I'm like, oh, okay.
yeah,
Yeah. So it's, yeah, being honest, being straightforward is the biggest thing. And it goes back to if you're dealing with dual agency, communication is key. It's hard to over communicate. So communication is key. So make sure you're upfront, honest, and continue asking how they're feeling about it as the transaction goes on.
yeah, and I think helping the seller understand that, like, when they're asking you, say after inspections, what should we do? And your answer is gonna be, I can't really advise you because we're in this dual situation. At that moment, then they suddenly realize what they may have traded off. So you wanna make sure you play that out for them when you're giving them the opportunity to say yes or no.
Yeah.
'Cause it's really kind of their call ultimately,
Yeah.
what you agree.
Yeah,
If it's not
100%.
agree
Yeah, and
to it,
some
then
sellers,
you're
I
not-
would not even like consider it. I know that they wouldn't do well under, but yeah. It's all about good communication and good honesty. All right, so we're gonna start going through oh, I forgot there was slides for this, but that's all right. We're gonna go through, you've got a whole list here and I'm gonna go through each one of these. I'm gonna try to do it quickly. So if there's one you want to elaborate on, let me know because we're slightly trying to, I want to get through everything. So I don't want to like obsess about time, but I also want to make sure we get through everything. So setting expectations. When we've talked about 3 levels of service, one of the biggest ones is how you can be a great agent is going to be communication and education. And that is a big part of that is going to be in setting expectations. In order to do that, you've got to be educated. You need to know what's coming next in order to be able to tell them what's coming next. So it's kind of an interlocking thing. For a lot of us, this is our job, it's our passion as well. For our clients, it's something that they've probably never done, or they haven't done it in a really long time. Probably the only exception to that would be an investor, but they may be new to this market. So you might have to help them in a little different way. And the stakes for them are huge. They're talking about one of the biggest financial transactions they'll ever make in their life. So you're going to demonstrate your expertise by educating them, the client, on the realities of the market, what their personal real estate goals are, and you're going to do it often. And that by that I mean you don't just say it one time. You've got to keep referring back to. We'll get that in a little bit more when we talk about analyzing buyer needs and seller needs as well. But the number one thing you need to do first is set expectations for the process and for the communication. Any questions on that? The second part is you're going to review the transaction process. The transaction process is going to be number one, partner with an agent. Yay, we checked one thing off our list. Second's going to be getting pre-approved. You want to walk them through this step by step. You want to set clear search criteria. That is part of your buyer consultation, is figuring out exactly what they want. Finding your new home, making an offer, negotiating terms, being under contract. Vendor coordination means like moving companies, or if there's repairs that the buyer's taking on, that type of thing. Negotiating inspections, appraisal, pre-close preparation, and post-closing. There's one other one in there. Closing and post-closing. Sorry, it's covered up by the screen. I can't read it on my book as well. So that is your transaction process there. Just keep in mind as you go through this is a very complicated process for a lot of different people. And it's also very emotional for a lot of different people. So it's not just as much as people want to say that they're going to be unemotional about the transaction, it usually does come down to emotions for most buyers. And I always encourage you to kind of review this on a high level as you start it, and then as you go through the transaction, you're going to remind them of this as you go through it.
Now, this is like a little cheat sheet. Is that somewhere, like, is that gonna be?
This should be in your book somewhere. Let me take a
Okay.
look when we've got after the class, and I'll see if I can find it
and-
for you.
Cause I printed it out.
It should, it's in mine, but I'm like, it should be in here somewhere. Yeah, it's probably somewhere in there.
Maybe
So I will,
somewhere,
yeah,
okay.
let me see if I can find it for you.
What
So-
book y'all referring to, like that at night book? Or-
Yeah,
Out.
yeah, let me see if I can get it and then we can make copies for you guys. How's that? I realize it's like, it's not in the book, is it? It's, yeah, so I'm looking at what you guys are looking at. It's not in there. And it's not the next couple of pages, so. We'll see if we happen to run across it. If not, we can make copies for you. All right, so set time expectations. That's a very important part in the process because they have no idea how long anything takes, and they may have some weird ideas about things like, oh, you get 30 days to move out after closing. That was a commonplace thing 20 years ago, not so common nowadays, and actually can be against some people's loans. So you gotta be very careful on what they're allowed to do. So, and also on time expectations, a big part of that is how is the market currently moving? If you were waiting for a while for them to save down payment and get pre-approved because they may have had some credit issues, they may be in a different market than they were in before. So they may, and I've been through a lot of different markets in the time I've been licensed. So there was at one point where we could figure out which houses on Monday we wanted to see that weekend. And they'd all be available still, that type of thing. It's a different market. Now you've got a little bit more leniency. We're starting to see a little bit of a shift in the market, but you need to make sure they understand, like, if they find a house they like and in this market currently, they have to make an offer quickly. It's not going to be something that they can sit on for a couple of weeks and think about it. There was a time when they could do that, believe it or not the current market we're in. Because it's very, very rare for people to have to make big decisions very quickly. So a lot of people are very uncomfortable with that. So we need to make sure we understand their needs, understand what it is, and set that expectation that if you do find a house you love, you need to figure out how to get to the point where you're ready to make an offer and make decisions quickly. So telling them ahead of time makes it a little bit easier. Any questions on that? Document expectations. There's a bunch of paperwork when you do buy a house. There's gonna be a lot of things I'm gonna need your signature on. There's a lot of things that you're gonna have to sign, and sometimes we're gonna have to re-sign it because something was wrong. It happens. The biggest part is, can you get them to do digital signing, please? They really will save you a lot of headaches. But make sure they understand there's gonna be a lot of documents, and we're gonna walk you through each one of them and make sure you understand it, but there is gonna be a lot of documents that need to be signed, and you need to be comfortable with me talking about that. When you go into session 17, they're gonna be talking more about what you do when you're making and receiving offers. So you'll get that tomorrow a little bit more. But you want to always future pace your clients. So they kind of have an idea when they've submitted an offer, when are they going to hear back? When do they have to do inspections, that type of thing. They need to know kind of what's all involved with that. So got to be able to clearly state that. Any questions on documentation expectations? And communication expectations. Big part of this is make sure you know what they're comfortable with on communication. Are they okay with texting? Would they prefer a phone call, which I know can be a hassle for all of us, but sometimes I have one client won't answer a phone call. Would only text me. It's my cousin. And I intentionally would call him just so he would text me back. It was kind of got to be a joke. But that was just his style. He did not want a phone call. So you just have to make sure they understand. Do both spouses want to be included on all text messages? Don't want to make the wife mad because you're only texting with the husband or vice versa. You want to make sure they understand who wants to do it. Is there a time of day that's really difficult for them to answer the phone? Like when the kids are getting home from school and they're preparing dinner, okay, between 3 and 6, I will only call you if it's an emergency, if I need an answer right away. Otherwise, pace it so you can call them later in the day. And also vice versa. When do you hang up your phone? When are you no longer available? I typically don't deal with clients after 8 o'clock at night. Very seldom deal with them after 5 o'clock, but usually after 8 o'clock at night, I'm like, you're not getting my best side. I'm tired. I'm probably playing with my horse. So probably not the best time to reach out to me unless you need me. I will answer the phone if I can. But if it can wait till tomorrow, let's wait till tomorrow. You'll get a better side of me in the morning. Make sense? I know it's hard to do as a brand new agent. You want to push, 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 get it all done. But I can guarantee you, if you're writing offers at 11 o'clock at night that don't need to be written, sometimes it happens, it needs to be written. I'm not gonna lie to you, it does happen. Are they getting the best side of you if you're already tired, frustrated, and just want to go to bed? So something to keep in mind. Set contingencies. Okay, so if a house comes on the market and your buyer is perfect for your buyers, but you're out of town for the weekend. Make sure they understand, hey, I'm gonna be out of town for this weekend. This is who's covering for me. I vacation 6, 7, 8 times a year. Not huge long vacations, but I love to travel and I'm going to travel. So I let my people know when I'm gone, my showing partner's here for all my showings, and this is the agent that's dealing with all my paperwork. And this is our transaction coordinator. If you have a question, if she can't answer it, she's gonna know who can. They have all that information ahead of time. I still get calls on occasion, but it's usually because I forgot that, oh crap, you're on vacation, aren't you? Let me call so-and-so. So a lot of times I can just take care of it and we're good to go. So just make sure you're setting contingencies in place because you need to be able to, you need to be able to be prepared for those. And it goes on the other side too. What if your seller is unable to respond to an offer on today because maybe it's like their daughter's graduation or their daughter's wedding? There's, something like that. I have a daughter, but I have 2 daughters, so sorry, it's habit, referring to daughters. If they're not gonna be available, make sure that so that you can let the, someone you do receive an offer, you can let the other agent know, hey, my seller let me know ahead of time. You need to leave this open a little bit longer. They're not gonna be available today to respond. Could be a medical emergency, could be a lot of things that are keeping them from responding. So but better to future pace that and let them know, hey, this is an issue, right? Not an issue, this is a contingency. 7 is set up to date market expectations. We've kind of already talked on this a little bit, but it kind of goes on both sides. The seller's been spending months preparing their house for sale. It may be slightly different market than it was before. So we need to make sure that we're going back over when we initially met with them. We probably did things. One thing I like to do is called absorption rate because it's a very easy thing to calculate and it's very easy to show them. And if it changes, it's a number. It's not a feeling, it's not a guess, it's a number that I can calculate on any neighborhood. And we need to also, while they're under contract and they're listed, we need to be sure that we're not under contract while they're listed. We need to be sure that they know if the market is starting to shift. I did have that happen recently. For some reason, like Westchester just stalled out last year at one point. Nothing over 500 was selling, over 400 was selling. We were listed at 425 and then we were down to 412. We didn't sell. We got a cash offer at 399. I told him, I said, if you can afford it, we need to take it. I don't think we're going to get any better than this. Because we had showings just stopped. It was just, there's nothing wrong, but some reason the market was shifting. And I looked, there were several houses that were just sitting. So something was going on where people were like, yep, we're not paying that price for houses right now. So you got to be aware when that's happening. Or if you do notice things change on your listing, figure out why. See if you can figure out what's going on in the whole market. So KW Tech does offer you a lot of different things. I'd say as you start digging into things, do not hesitate to get into Command and Connect and really understand what they can do for you. At Chabris, we use a different system, but it also is a huge priority for us to understand what is available in there. Because it can really set up things for you as far as reminders of when you need to do. I should finish my sentence. Reminders of when you need to do certain steps along the way. All right. So I know that was a lot of information all at once. So how are you guys feeling about that? Not too bad? All right. The good thing is you get to keep this paper so you can always go back and look again. If you're like, I missed something, I need to take another look at this. All right, so we're gonna move on to 16-6 here. You might be thinking we haven't even put on an offer in a house. Why am I asking for reviews and referrals? So this is something that I think a lot of agents hesitate to do. Reviews and referrals are a big part of what we do. When you, for example, okay, you go out to a new restaurant or you're thinking about going to a new restaurant, what do you usually do? Ask a friend?
Yeah, or extra.
Yeah, ask a friend or look at reviews.
Yeah.
But that's all we're doing is we're asking for somebody to give us a referral or to write a review. It's not a weird thing. Just tell them, hey, my whole business is based on referrals. If you know anybody, I'd like to be the first one you think of. What do I have to do that I haven't done so far to make that happen? I'd like to have a review done. Here's the link for it. Would you mind filling that out for me? I know we haven't closed yet, but we've been working hard. And I think I've done everything you need me to do. It helps me to have reviews as we go through the process. So I'm going to ask you again later on, but I'm going to see if you go ahead and do one now. I don't always get people to fill them out, but I have asked more than I used to, since coming to Keller Williams. So there's kind of a few different steps for it. Provide the value first. You got to show them that you're worth doing something for. Then you ask them for help. You're not telling them like, do this for me to make me look good. You're saying, can you help me? I need referrals. I need reviews in order to help push my business forward. And I'd be happy to do the same for you. If you run a business and I can participate in your business in some way, I would love to do it for you. And then reward them. There always should be some way that you reward someone for giving you a nice review. A thank you is always good, especially when you're new, and I know things are expensive, but it's not hard to send them like a $5 Starbucks card for a thank you. They can at least, well, probably be $10 now to get a cup of coffee, but the thought's there. I'll save you $5 on a cup of coffee. So think about that. Even better if you can hook up with like a local place that might help you out with that. If you buy 10 gift cards, they may give you a free one or something like that. So make sense? And you always reward the referral before anything happens with that referral. That's the polite way to do it. Don't wait till that referral closes. If someone refers their sister to you, you thank them at the time of referral and probably after closing too. But don't wait till it don't make your thank you contingent on that person closing. Make sense? All right. So here's one request for a review. If your purchasing or selling experience exceeded your expectations, would you be so kind to give me a brief review? I'd also like your permission to use this in my advertising and marketing. Pretty straightforward. I actually really like that. I do I do something very similar to that. Sound good? Lots of fun. Seller-oriented reviews are also very important. Because they can focus on things that are very important to other sellers, like the house sold quickly, they got above asking price, they were impressed at the service, that type of thing. So any other things that you'd like to hear from your sellers?
They explain things well,
Yeah,
but they understood the process as example. That's something that.
because that's what
appreciate.
your value is, and you want to make sure that they did get the value
They
that
say
you said you were going to
when
offer.
People are reading reviews, looking for someone, if they're coming to the beginning of the process with the idea of feeling overwhelmed. When they see that statement in the reviews, explain the process was with us every step of the way. I think that addresses that fear that they may have. Maybe even it's an unconscious fear at that point, but they'll connect with
It's like,
that.
wait a minute, if they're explaining it, last time we bought, I didn't feel that way.
Yeah. I
So
was
maybe this one will do better than the last
Yeah.
person. Yep. Yeah, I love that. And buyer reviews, more the buyer is going to focus more on finding the perfect home, negotiating a great price, a transaction going smoothly, and once again, impressed by the service. So if all those things that you did for them and you want a review, don't be afraid to ask them for it. But just kind of slightly two different viewpoints on what a buyer is looking for versus a seller is looking for. So how you word the request might be a little bit different. Sound good? All right. Does anybody have any other buyer things that they'd like to hear or like them to say? Tell you one I don't want them to say. They ran around the whole city showing me houses every time I asked them to. No, that ain't happening. I don't want people to have the expectation I'm at their beck and call because it doesn't always happen that way. I get busy. I can't always run around. I want them to be more selective in what they're asking to see. So, all right. So that was a lot of information. Anything stick out to you guys on this? For those of you that are new, or we ask for ahas at different points throughout. Yeah. Yep. We'll always ask for them out loud, for people to share them, just because we want people to kind of feel like they're participating in the class. So we want you to have a chance to speak out.
That's me. Question.
Do they have to sign anything? I like, if it says, okay, if you use it in your advertising and marketing, do they? They don't.
I have never used that part of it. I mean, if you're giving me a review, I don't put full names. If I do, like when I do reviews, I'll put like, usually like say if it was Jennifer Baldwin, I put Jennifer B.
Okay.
Just because I want it to seem legitimate, but I'm not gonna put their full name on there. Because I don't necessarily want that to be an issue. All right, so now I've got a half an hour to go through success with buyers and with sellers, so we're gonna try to speed this up a little bit. Did we start late? Where's that? No, the clock's right, okay. Did not seem like I was going slow, but like I said, this is a lot of information in here, so.
It's like this every time. with
Yeah,
every-
it should be
yeah.
2 hours, like 2 hours would make me be able to breathe a little bit. A lot of these pages are like, this is 1 minute, I'm like, I
Yeah,
can't even read that whole page in 1
And
minute.
there's almost like no time for back and forth.
Yeah,
But
Uh,
how fun would that be? For you just.
yeah, to have more back and forth, that's why I enjoy these
Yeah.
classes, I learn too, believe it or not, I learn a lot too. All right, so in here, like, in my book, it's really hard to read these, so. Basically what this chart is, you're talking about what buyers want most from their agents. The right home is the number one thing, 52% say that. 13% want you to negotiate, on both, on terms, to 11% on price. 34%, there's kind of a mix of different things, they want help with paperwork. Doing comps on houses and, helping them figure out how much they can afford. So that's what buyers are looking for. Basically, they want you to find the right house for them at the right terms. Right price and terms. Those are the biggest parts. Make sense? We all know how to do that. So this is the part I actually want to make sure we kind of get through some of this. Buyer's needs analysis. When you're meeting with a new buyer, it is very important to really nail down what they want, or you're going to spend a lot of time looking at houses that they're never going to buy. So one of the biggest things in our buyer's consultation is really walking through what do they need. And unfortunately, this is not in your book either, I don't think. But you want to find out, so these are some of the questions that they have on here. But what are some things that you think you would ask a buyer to start with? Yeah, feel free to take a picture of it if you want to. That might be the easier way to look at it. Because I actually have a sheet that I do with my buyers. Mine's a little different than this, but I don't do top 5 needs. I have them give me the 3 things that they want. And I always make sure both parties, if there's 2 of them, actually contribute. Give me a top 3 things you have to have in a house. And then I make them eliminate one of them. And then I make them eliminate the second one. So I can find out truly what is their top priority when they're looking for a house. Usually it's location. They'll usually negotiate on a lot of other things if they get the right location. Very important that you come up with how you're going to analyze your buyer needs and do the same thing every time. You're going to find out it's a lot better. And what you're also going to find out is that when you start going out and showing houses, you're going to be able to refer back to this when they're not buying a house and try to figure out what was missing from that. Because something got lost in translation if you're showing them 10, 12 houses and they haven't put in an offer yet. Right? And if you've got this in writing, you can actually go back and look at, okay, this is what we talked about initially. Did something change? Most of the time something did. They may want to up their price range because they're like, we're not finding what we want. We can't afford more. We didn't tell you that, but we can. Let's up it now because now we're not finding, or you know what? We decided we don't want that school district anymore. We're looking somewhere else. Whatever it may be. So there's 2 reasons that buyers' needs do change. Their lives change or their world changes. So what would be a life-changing event?
Job change.
That'd be a big one, yeah. What would be a world change?
Had a
Divorce?
baby. No, you gotta have a baby.
And that's kind of like when I was looking at this beginning, that's what I thought they meant. The world changing is like something like an outside force is changing.
Oh, like the market.
Yeah, yeah. So that's usually what they mean by a world change. Big economic changes in the country. Sometimes it is a political change. There's things that can be an influence that are not within that person.
Yeah,
That
one
makes
of the big
sense?
ones for my buyers in the last couple of years has been the way lenders are treating their college loan debt.
Yes.
There was a point in
So
time
that
when
would be a
it
world
wasn't-
change
wasn't
because it is,
factoring
it's
into
actually a
the-
law that changed.
Yeah, and now it is factoring in and suddenly what they're pre-approved for has been reduced.
And that's been changed constantly. So it may change again.
Yeah, it might.
Yeah. Yeah, so those are the two reasons that their initial analysis could be off is because of these things. It's also the reason most people move. So when you start thinking about it. All right. And I know, like I said, I know I'm gonna move quickly, but I want to make sure we get through all of this. Biggest thing you need to be prepared to do, you have to have tough conversations sometimes with buyers. When they're not making a purchase, you've got to talk to them, what the heck is going on? My mouth sometimes, sorry about that. So you need to be sure that you're able to have those conversations with them. But beyond that, you've got to be able to have even tougher conversations on things like they can't go out and buy a bunch of stuff when they're looking for a house, new cars, stuff like that. They have to keep in contact with their lender. They need to make sure they're paying all of their bills on time. You can't change your debt to income ratio. And what they would do if they found a house that was not listed, a for sale by owner or something like that. You need to have those conversations. Does that make sense for all of you? Not always easy to do, but the more you can do that, it's setting expectations. Letting them know what's good and what's not. And as far as like all the spending, yes, mortgage should be doing that, but unless you know for a fact they are, doesn't hurt to be the one to mention that. If you find out, oh, we're gonna be late because we're going to look at a car. Wait a minute. Have you talked to your lender yet? Yeah. Now I've had people leave closing and go buy a car. Don't recommend that either, because that's a lot of payments. All right. And so next part they're kind of talking about is you want to show all homes based on what comes up in that needs analysis. So if they keep sending you properties that don't meet what they said they needed, you need to have a conversation. If you're showing them things that they say they want and they're not making offers, or they just seem like, it's okay, we'll keep it on the list, but not too excited about it. You need to find out why. That's why that needs analysis is so important, is it works for you in many ways to go back and say, hey, what changed? Because there's very well could be something that they don't want to share details, but they could have had a major life change that just happened. Right? And if that change is getting divorced, you really got to rethink what you're doing right then. Yes.
Sometimes I think what changes, and it changes slowly and it's more subtle, but I think it's also very significant, is that they're slowly coming to the conclusion that they can't get what they want
Yes.
for their price.
Yeah.
And that they're gonna have to make a big compromise. Maybe it's gonna be the location. Maybe it's gonna be, they're gonna go with 2 bedrooms instead of 3, or 1 bathroom instead of a bath and a half or 2. And they literally don't know that when you're first talking to them about their needs, right?
Yeah,
They
they've
don't
got
know.
these great expectations. I want a 4-bedroom, 3 full bath house. It's
Yeah.
in Hyde Park and my budget's $250.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, and the thing is, they don't know what they're gonna compromise on. They just know that they're not seeing what they want at their price point.
Yeah. So it could
But
be.
when they see something, like I recently had a situation where she was a big gardener and paid to have a spot in a community garden.
Mhm.
And they saw a house that did not have 2 full baths, which was one of their must-haves. It only had a bath and a half, but it had this backyard that was perfect for gardening, which was not on her list because her garden needs were being met elsewhere. But when she saw that, then she said, I'm willing to give up. I love so many other things about the house. I'm willing to give up that other bathroom because I'm gonna be able to get this garden here and that's gonna be worth it to me. Literally, they couldn't have told me that ahead of time. They didn't know that. They had to see some houses. They had to come to terms with the fact that they were gonna have to compromise. They didn't know how they were gonna compromise, but they knew it when they saw it. And if we hadn't shown that place, they wouldn't have had that little epiphany. So sometimes the process is just the process, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And things do change for different reasons throughout it.
Mhm.
Yeah. And when we were looking, I know our priorities changed numerous times throughout it. And I realized one thing I would not give up was an ensuite bathroom. I did give up my walk-in closet, which I kind of regret, but I love my house, so well, I'm selling it too. But I did love it for 9 years. I just don't have a barn on my house and I want my horses home. So
There you go.
needs analysis, my needs analysis changed. And my kids both are graduating and we may be empty nesters by the end of the year. So it's exciting times in my house. Best practices for showing homes. We're gonna go through these pretty quickly because I mean, you probably have a good grip on it. You guys need to sign buyers, but you kind of need to know what to expect. Show only the best properties for your buyer. I kind of disagree with this. If the buyer wants to see it and they can give me a legitimate reason, I'm gonna show it to them anyway. Always have information with you. I know agents that show with nothing and it really drives me nuts. I always have an MLS printout with me for myself to answer questions quickly when they're like, how many square feet is this again? I've got it ready to go. And it gives them a sheet so they can kind of jot down anything they want on it as well. And plus it gives them something to kind of refer to as we go, or if it just gives them the addresses if we're seeing more than one. Make sure you always give them disclosures. They need to know ahead of time. I always read the disclosures and I make marks on my MLS sheet if there's like something I need to make sure we look at that was disclosed. They tell me the basement's leaking, I'm gonna go to that basement and look for that leak so we can see what it is. So I always email all the disclosures ahead of time. I don't like to print them. If I forget to email them, I will print them because I still want to give them to them. But sometimes I do get behind. And on that note, just keep in mind when you're scheduling appointments or like buyer consultations and stuff like that, also schedule time to prep for those. People forget that. I've got a buyer consultation this afternoon. When are you gonna prep? You're in class until 11, you've got, you're gonna do lead generation afterwards. When are you gonna prep for your 2 o'clock appointment? And how much time do you need for that? So keep that in mind. Something I always see people forget to do. This says mark properties on a map. Depends, and you know the neighborhood. I think the idea is like know the proximity to different things. If you're not familiar with the neighborhood, you may want to kind of look at that when they say, how far is this to the high school? How far, like kind of get an idea for what they might want. But I've never actually, I haven't put them on a map since I had to print maps to get to the places. So that one I will get back and forth. Make sure you're knowledgeable about the property and the neighborhoods. Do some research, ask some questions if it's a neighborhood that you don't typically sell in. Include recent comparable sales so you can answer pricing questions. I do run quick comps if we're seeing houses in similar neighborhoods. If they're looking for more the house than the neighborhood, it's like, let's go see it. And if you're interested, I will pull comps that evening for you. Because I'm not going to do it on every single house I see. But honestly, as a new agent, you probably should because it'll be good practice. So that you learn how to do it a little bit better. That's just me throwing that out there. I hadn't thought of that ahead of time. Do not be afraid to point out potential issues or concerns with each house. I always say for every good thing I like, oh, this is a beautiful kitchen. Oh, did you see the sink's been leaking? You can see the track inside the sink where it's been dripping. So we need to make sure that was fixed. You know, we want to make sure that and don't intentionally look for it. There may not be a negative, but don't be afraid to point it out if you do see something that might be a concern. Doesn't mean you're the expert. When I look at a foundation, like when we can see some hairline cracks here, this crack's a little bit more vertical. And from my background, I know that that's usually a little bit more of a concern. I would definitely look at getting these checked out as part of the inspection. I would also include hiring a structural engineer to take a closer look at these. I'm not going to tell them that there's a huge concern. But I know what signs to look for because I've been doing this a lot of years. So cracks that go this way, usually not bad, usually means settlement, unless they're separated, like you can stick your fingernail in it, then you might have a concern. Well, maybe not fingernail because mine are thicker. I have thick gel on them or thick powder on them, but you know, just like you can stick your pen in there, probably not a good thing. For like ones that are vertical, typically that usually means there's pressure coming from the outside of the house in. So it could be a sign that the walls are starting to bend. Don't take that as like gospel, but that's stuff I've learned over the years. I was in school for engineering, so I pay more attention to that stuff. All right. Kind of the last thing on this is they're telling you as part of your education, once you're a licensed agent, start previewing homes. If you don't have a buyer to take to a home yet, you should go out and look at them anyway. There is an option in showing time to do an agent preview. Be sure you're honest about it. Don't tell them you're bringing a client if you're not. And I would probably try to stick mainly with ones that are listed here at Keller Williams and let that agent know that, hey, I'm just wanting to go do a preview on your house. And I would try to do as many vacant houses as you can. So that's just some hints. You don't want to make agents mad. You don't want to get a bad reputation before you ever show an actual house. All right. So showing houses means that you're going to be interacting with agents. When you're going to show a property, the number one thing you can do, and it makes me angry when people tell me that they didn't bother to look up the property on MLS before they showed it. We are not in that market anymore. There's a reason why I put agent remarks up there. There's things agents need to know that the general public does not need to know. I need you need to read those remarks. Take 5 minutes to read through each listing you're showing and make sure there's nothing that stands out to you. Look at the attachments, understand what's attached. If there is a feature sheet on there, don't call that agent and ask them when the roof was replaced and when the furnace was replaced, when they bothered to fill out a sheet that has all of that information on there.
All that's on the MLS.
Not always, but if it's not, yes, ask them. But if it's on there and you call them and ask them,
Right,
they're gonna be
that's
like,
They're gonna say, yeah, I've already, did you see my attached document? I've got a feature sheet there that explains the ages of all the
Okay.
mechanicals or whatever.
That makes perfect
That's-
sense, yeah.
common
I mean,
courtesy.
It really is annoying, and I have a challenging condo on the market right now, and, I've had an agent that's made 2 different appointments and hasn't bothered to look at the agent remarks or the attached documents. And then they don't show up with their client. They just don't even show up to the appointments. You're
Oh.
waiting for feedback. They didn't bother to show up. And then when I text and say, what happened? Then they're like, oh, yeah, the buyer thought that the HOA fee was too high. Well,
then
why did you
cancel the
ever make
appointment and say
Right,
that.
yeah, that was already the case. And did you look at the agent remarks? We're covering 3 months of HOA fees. So I call her back and she's like, no, I didn't realize that. That agent is not doing their job. And to be honest with you, a lot of agents don't. And that's one of the eye-opening
Wow.
experiences that you have. Is that you have to anticipate that they might not be doing their job well, and you almost have to sometimes.
Yeah,
jump
sometimes you
in.
do have to
If you're
do
gonna
more
do
than
the right
what's
thing for representing your client. Sometimes you have to jump in, right?
100%. We're gonna teach you the right way to do it, but don't have the expectation other people are getting the same
Right.
education.
That's right.
Home tour toolkit. I do like this. It's kind of fun. Things that you should always have with you. So it's now it says graphite for sticky locks. I am not sticking something in someone else's lock. Like, I am sorry, that is not my job, and I am not gonna get in trouble if some stuff is like dripping down their front of their door. Sanitizing wipes, paperwork. We've already kind of talked about that. The map is just bothering me. I'm like, who has a map? First aid kit, a flashlight. I have a taser that is also a flashlight. I carry that on all my showings. It's not really for my client because I always vet my clients, but it's more like something unexpected. I don't conceal carry, so I have a taser. And it's pretty, it's purple, it's small, it works well. Tape measures are always important. Sometimes they're just like, what, like, is this room big enough for a queen bed? And you're like, okay, let's see how big it is. And like, wait a minute, this is there's 3 feet bigger than our bedroom at home, but because it's empty, it doesn't look like it.
Right.
Office supplies. If you don't have something to write with when you're on a showing, shame on you. Paper goods. I always had tissues and toilet paper and stuff like that in my car, just because like if something comes up, like God forbid, your client's kid needs to go to the bathroom, there's no toilet paper in the house. I highly discourage adult clients from going to the bathroom, but kids, they're exceptions. Always flush the toilet first to make sure it's not turned off. Little hint. No, you don't. It did happen one time and I said, we got here and I didn't want to take, I was bad. I did not take responsibility.
Wait, you
Masks.
have a couple gallons of water in your trunk.
Mhm. That wouldn't hurt. Masks, and that's usually not because, I mean, I know we're through COVID. Some of this was written during COVID, but it doesn't hurt to have one if like you end up sick and you're not trying to cough on everybody. At least now it's like not weird when people put a mask on. Always have your business cards. Shoe covers I've never carried, but I mean, if your shoes are nasty, just make sure you're not walking around with the sandals on or no, I'm not walking around barefoot in anybody's house. I usually have a pair of socks in my car though. I have horses, so if I have to run to the barn, I've always got shoes at the barn, so I gotta have socks. Beverages and snacks are never a bad idea. Umbrellas, like these are just some good things. Like as an agent, you want to have your car kind of ready for like almost anything. I always have snacks with me, because I can't like. I'm running all day and I take medicine that I don't realize I'm hungry and I'm like, oh my God, it's 3 o'clock. I haven't eaten since breakfast. I didn't eat breakfast today. I had yoga this morning. I always do yoga without eating because it makes me sick if I eat first, and I just forgot to eat my protein bar afterwards. But I always make sure I have stuff with me and always willing to share it too with my clients. Make sense? All right. Got 10 minutes left. Let's see if we can get through all this. Safety when showing houses. Be smart. There's probably cameras. Pretend there is, even if there isn't. Don't talk bad about the house. Be more factual, not opinion so much. Unless it's nice, then that's usually better. Warn clients that make sure your clients understand that there is cameras, and always announce yourself, even if it's a vacant home. Knock on the door, turn the key in the lock, open it. Hey, anybody here? Walk in a little further. Is anybody here? Okay. And let your clients know why you're doing that. Sometimes it's just another agent in the house and you didn't realize it, but you don't want surprises. That's no fun. And keep in mind as you're going through this process that your job is to sell houses, not to show houses. Two different things. So figure out what you're doing to get into the houses and how you can get, instead of showing them, how you can get those people to a sale. Make sense? One of the big ways of doing that is put in mind, we talked 80-20 principle. If you've been at Keller Williams for a while, you'll hear it more and more. Tell them if you find a house that's 80% of what you want, that's going to be enough. Because there is not a perfect home. Make sense? I use that a lot with my clients. I know we're kind of going through this quickly, so please stop me if you're like, I want to talk about this more. These are some of the reasons that a buyer will hesitate, afraid to commit, they don't like some minor detail, they haven't seen enough, or they need to talk to someone else. So be prepared for all of these objections and learn how to handle these objections. Role play. How you can get them to get to a decision, go back to motivation, go back to what their needs and wants are, advise them, allay their fears, solve their challenges. All sound familiar? Yeah, ways to get through it. Like I said, I know we're moving quickly, but I want to get to sellers and other agents. Am I too quick for anybody? Got questions? Anything that popped up on this part that you're like, that's really cool, I should keep that in mind?
I just appreciate all the information.
Yeah, it's given quickly, but
Yeah.
it's all there for you. All right, so then we're looking at sellers. So sellers are more varied in what they're looking for. Number one is price. Number two is market. Number three is time frame, and number four is ideas on fixing up their home. But they're all very close. So a lot of times when you're meeting with a seller, you got to figure out what their priority is, because what they're looking for in an agent is more varied than what a buyer is looking for. Does that make sense? So sellers are a little different, but listings are a lot more fun than running around showing houses a lot of times. What they really don't think they need help with is inspections and preparing for settlement and stuff like that. Because I think they've done it before, so they probably feel more prepared than most buyers do. Not as concerned with negotiating and dealing with buyers or finding the buyer. I think they figure sellers are kind of savvy. They understand you're going to put on MLS. It feeds out to all these websites. So we're not usually finding them the buyer. We're just making sure the house is available for any buyer that's looking. That's a little slight difference there. Make sense? All right. So what the seller needs, first is the right price. We need to know what time frame they want and what conveys. Conveyances means what's going with the house. Make sense? All right. Sellers decide to sell because their lives change or their world changes. This part's a little bit easier because we've kind of gone through that. A lot of the seller things are going to be the same reason that buyers are looking to buy, and the same reason sellers are looking to sell. Something major changes in their lives. Sellers control two things in a transaction. They do control the price and they control the condition of the home. Both things have to match up in order to get a sale. Price doesn't have to necessarily change as long as the condition for that price meets buyer's expectations. Does that make sense? If you want a higher price, your house has to meet that price point. So I always try to tell people, it's not that your price is wrong, they're just not seeing the value for the price. We have to show them value, so either we have to increase the condition or we have to decrease the price. It's not me doing that, the market's telling me that.
It can be such a difficult conversation.
It can be, yeah.
The wrong seller, yeah, for sure.
it can be, they don't want to take their money down.
Yeah.
And since the seller conversations, things that come up that can be a very bad issue for sellers, smells. No one wants to tell someone their house stinks, but it can be a hard conversation, but if you don't have it, that's all your feedback's gonna be over and over again. Yeah, usually pets, but it can be smoking, that type of thing. Number 2 is clutter. That's always hard to tell someone they got too much stuff. But set the expectations. Deferred maintenance is a big deal. Their decor. Sometimes it's just over the top. I don't like to neutralize. I like a house with personality, but sometimes like, it's kind of like, I can be very direct and I try to be funny, but like, hon, you just got too much personality in here.
Yeah.
And they'll get it, like they understand. And I will also back that up with pictures of like, here's a room with personality, but that is neutral enough, it's not distracting. So it happens. And I usually say hon because it's usually the female. I have had the conversation about deer heads on the wall, that type of thing. That's always fun too. Sellers not wanting to leave for showings. That's not usually as much of an issue as it used to be. And normally the times when I've dealt with it, it's been someone that's so elderly, they can't leave. I had one where we just basically said, okay, there is a weed room in the house. The guy is dying of cancer. He cannot leave. So there's one room you cannot see. And they're like, okay. Because he will be in there on his computer smoking weed. He was dying of cancer. What can you do? So we were upfront about it. Not a big deal. Guns in the house. Another funny story, sitting on someone's couch and said, I asked her if she had guns in the house. She's like, oh, there's one right there in that seat cushion. She pulled one out. She had them hidden all over the house. And I'm like, okay, we need to make sure those are not, she's like, already taken care of. I've got a safe. I will start putting them away when there's going to be showings. So it was just funny. Like, I love that lady. She was so much fun to work for. And cash drawer and other expensive items in the house, and especially medication. That's something, even if it's not something that's a street drug, put that medication away. When people are out there to steal drugs, they're not going to look at the label. They're going to take anything that's got a prescription label. So just make sure all that stuff is put away in some way.
Now, are you gonna go over the stuff before you look around their house, just so that they know that you might?
I have a
approach
list
them
of things that they need to look at, and I'm going to look for signs of something that I need to point out.
Mhm.
So it's individualized, but the overall list is always the same. And it does say illegal activities. If there's illegal activities going on, I don't think that I'm gonna stay in that house. I'm probably not listing that house. I don't think I want to go there. So, fun conversations. I know we've only got a few minutes left, so we're gonna try to get through this. Once again, great communication. If you can communicate what's going on, it's gonna give a strong foundation. It's gonna manage expectations. You're gonna create peace of mind for your clients, and it's gonna enhance your credibility. So we've kind of gone over that already, so we're not gonna linger on that. Fair housing laws, know what your fair housing laws are. If your client is trying to violate something or you're not sure, speak to a manager, please. Feel free to call me. I teach ethics. I've got a good idea of what a fair housing violation is. Enough to say you may need to go talk to someone else, or probably not as much of a concern as what you're thinking. So, but be careful on that. And there actually is now a form that every seller has to fill out or has to sign that goes into more detail on this. Used to just be a paragraph, so. Remember, no commission is ever worth your reputation. This is a Keller Williams thing. WI4C2TES is what they call it. I think it's way too flippant long. So these are some ideas, but we always that Keller Williams goes by. This is at the very front of your book. If you've got a full one, I think we actually do have it in here later, or is it in here?
Mhm.
Okay.
Oh, the books that they give you. Those books you gotta purchase when you get referring to this book, right?
Yeah, this is the whole Ignite book.
That's in a bookcase.
Yeah, you can buy the whole thing if you want to, and then as you become, they do this twice a year. So you can go back on and do it, and they'll offer it online, not us doing it, but Keller Williams doing it. They'll do it in the evening sometimes.
But that's on the website also.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, if you just like Google Keller Williams customs or culture, this will come up. So it's a big part of it. All right, so there is in Command, there is a 14-step marketing plan for listings. Look it up, use it. Marketing is important. You want to be sure you're doing everything you can. If you're doing social media marketing, make sure your brokerage is an equal prominence to your name. Just dealt with an agent that got really upset with me for telling her that she did it wrong. I'm like, I'll take it down, I'll delete them. Like, just add Keller Williams on there. That's all you need to do. It was a little ridiculous. But listings, these are the 3 L's: listings, leverage, and leads. These are the 3 things that can bring you more business. So, make sense? Market your listing, have fun with it, make it work. And you should do open houses at your listing. Just because I don't like them doesn't mean you shouldn't like them. All right, actually, I said, all right, sorry, it's not on Command. MREA, the Amelia Real Estate Agent, has a 14-step marketing plan.
Oh,
So I apologize, I said the wrong thing. That little quote was from Shift. Make sure there's a couple things to keep in mind, like in our team, we will not publish listing without all the HOA docs. Please be that anal about your listings. Make sure you have all the correct documentation already ready, including your disclosures, that type of thing loaded up. Here, I think you upload your own listings, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah.
So just be sure all of your, whatever you would expect to be there, make sure you put there. Get professional pictures. We all know when you do it on your cell phone, you're not that good. Sorry, I'm blunt. Make sure you set the right schedule for your listing as far as showings, when it needs to go online. What's probably like the worst time to go active on a listing? Right before a holiday weekend. This doesn't make sense. It makes more sense to wait till the week after.
Say Memorial Weekend could be a good time, though.
Every
Or
year,
Thursday, you can.
I was gonna ask
so
if
you
anybody had a
one
different
Memorial
opinion.
Weekend.
Easter weekend, not a great weekend.
No, Easter weekend, no,
Yep.
or certainly the winter holidays, no. But
Yeah.
Memorial Weekend, sometimes the people who are shopping are using that weekend to
Yeah.
shop.
Yeah, I don't, that is not, or that is a true statement. They want me to go through and do a marketing thing with you guys, but we're gonna do it. Make sure you have your proper signage outside. All right, we're gonna get to this, and while we're looking at this, I'm gonna talk about working with other agents. If you guys would not mind leaving me a review, and I do, like I said, I'm sorry it went quick. It's a lot of information, in a very short period of time, so I'm just trying to get through it. But if you can scan this and do an evaluation for me, when you look at the list of people, instructors on there, I will not be listed because I'm not an instructor yet. I'm working towards being KW faculty. But you have to scroll all the way to the bottom where it says name not in list. And I'm not gonna flip to the next thing. I'm just gonna talk about it while you guys are doing that part. Because the next part is, and I know we're a little over time, but we're gonna get this done real quick. Is talking about working with other agents. When you're communicating with different agents, you need to make sure you're always the person that is giving that respect and that professionalism, but not allowing yourself to be walked all over. That's probably the biggest balancing for you. You don't want to be too pushy. You don't want to be disrespectful. You don't want to ask questions you already have the answer to. You want to be able to communicate with other agents. As we call it in the business, is you're a cooperative agent. You guys are supposed to work together to make things happen. As I've done this several times, sometimes you have somebody on the other side that is just really difficult, and that can be really hard. But if you take the higher ground, it will go smoother. I do promise you that. But something to keep in mind too is when there's something put in that you know is going to be an issue, seller can't respond for 48 hours to a offer. Be respectful of that time. Agent tells you we're meeting on Sunday to go over offers, we're in multiple offers. Leave it open to the time they tell you to. You're not going to gain anything by trying to push, other than lose the respect of that person.
Well, and not represent your buyer successfully.
Exactly. You want to make a good first impression on them, and you want to make sure that they remember you in a fond way. Because one thing you always want to remember, especially here, because it's the only brokerage I've worked for that's allowed for this. If that goes really well and they really liked working with you, that could be the next person that you're getting profit share from. They could end up coming to work here, name you as the reason they were here, and they could be your next agent in your downline.
That's how I wound up here.
Yeah.
Because one of the agents from here was a co-op agent for me.
Very common thing, yeah. So, and if that, nothing else, let money motivate you to be nice. Yes.
Do I hit Keller Williams worldwide?
The region we are Ohio Valley. I'm assuming that's a region thing, right? Yeah, we're Ohio Valley. Yep. And I'm Jennifer Baldwin. This is Ignite session 16. Yes, thank you. It's like, what did I just say? All right, so to end it out, I did just very briefly go over, just remember co-op agents are not your clients, but they are still part of what you're doing, so. All right, so as we get done here, I know we're only 5 over, that wasn't too bad. Did I go too quick, be honest?
No,
Okay,
I mean, you could probably, yeah, we could probably discuss it, but that's not, I mean, you
Yeah,
can't help
it's-
it.
and there is spots where you're
It would be
supposed to
nice.
discuss,
It would
but
be
there
nice.
was no way.
It would be nice to put more nuance into it, but it's not designed for that, unfortunately, so.
And that's been my feedback that this is, I think, the fifth or sixth class I've taught, and I'm like, you've got to give us more time.
Yeah, it's not.
I don't want to reduce the content, but I think we need a full 2 hours. I mean, these could easily be 2-hour classes.
Yeah,
I
I agree. I mean, I think it's one thing to, when you have a diverse audience. I mean, the questions that somebody new in the business is gonna have are different than the questions somebody who's been in the business. And how do you teach effectively if you can't legitimize both of those kinds of concerns because there's not enough time?
Yeah. They tell us not to eliminate content and also not to eliminate activity. So I try to pull you guys in as much as I can, but at the same time, it's like get the information out
Right?
because there's good information in there. So I hope it went well for all of you. Any big things that
Thank you.
stuck out to you guys today?
No, I am gonna go back and look at my notes though, and just look over everything to let it settle in. Cause I am still studying to take the exam, so I've got to. So I've got that going in, and then I've got this stuff because
Yeah.
I just
It's just a
really want
lot.
to be prepared.
It's really just a lot. And unfortunately, and I'm sure you kind of already know this, or I've heard it. What you have to know and keep in your head to pass that test is not really what you need to do this job.
Yeah.
There's very little overlap, and it's like while you're trying to keep all the test stuff in your head, it's hard to take in all of this too, because if you're like me, there's only so much you can keep there,
Yeah.
Plus, I'm gonna read the MREA book and Shift book. And it's, I told my
Yeah.
husband, I was like, I'm gonna be reading forever. You're not gonna know me anymore. I'm gonna be reading.
They are definitely worth doing it. They're amazing books, and there's quite a few other ones, but those are the top 2. The One Thing is the third one I'd add to that list.
What?
The One Thing.
Oh, the one thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the one book they give you read that already? Oh, no, you didn't. They give you one of the books.
Oh, I haven't done my.
Right,
so,
yeah. So they'll give you one book. I can't even think of the name of the book because
Is that Millionaire Real Estate Agent?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they give you that.
That doesn't
good.
surprise me.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna buy it.
Yeah,
I've got it
yeah,
on.
yeah, no, well, I don't know if you want to pre-read, but they give you that.
Good, because I have it on my Kindle, and I'm like, I don't wanna pick up another piece of electronic.
Yeah. Yep, I get that. And it's really one you should take notes in and highlight and make it your copy. I mean, if you watch there's a podcast with MREA. And it's when the people will be, and they actually do it on YouTube now, so they've got live video and they'll hold up their MREA book, and you can see there's some really old copies and they're afraid and they've got Post-its on them, people are proud of how many times they've read it,
Oh
so
my gosh,
it's
Like
a
the
great one.
Bible.
It is. I haven't gotten into it quite as much as I wanted to. All right, is anybody gonna stay and do some role play? I know you can't do lead gen yet, but we can hit some of the role play in the back of the Ignite book. You guys wanna give it a shot?
I have to meet someone for signs in a few minutes. I'm trying to connect with right now.
Tomorrow. You
I
teach
can,
tomorrow?
Wednesday is the next day and I'll be staying for it on Wednesday as well.
So tomorrow is the class though, just
Yeah.
not with you?
Not with me, it is with, who is tomorrow? Oh, Maggie,
Are they all still 9 to 11:30? Is that?
9:30 to 11.
9:30 to 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Maggie will be here tomorrow about making and receiving offers. I'll be here Wednesday on negotiating.
Son
I
got
love
pregnant,
negotiations.
he can't find his compression shirt, of course, it's my problem. You do your own laundry, I don't know where you put the shirt is expensive, it's not cheap.
Oh, no, those
He's one of
compression
the-
shirts are not cheap.
Can't run without it, right? Like, come on, we like.
Oh, back in the day, we all ran without all this fancy equipment and we were just fine. Well, I shouldn't say that. I tore out my ankle and had to have reconstructive surgery.
I
But
know.
had nothing to do with my shirt.
See, yeah, find it there, and that was not part of my days.
Yeah,
And I'm
having
happy
kids makes it challenging.
Everybody, if he can. Keep it.
I have a friend that made their kids go through 2 months of winter without a winter coat because they lost 3 coats in a month. She's like, I'm not buying another one. The school ended up giving them one. But yeah, she actually went to school. Just so you know, I'm not being mean. They need to learn and they're earning money to buy another coat because I'm not buying them another coat.
Would have ended up with a call, right, from Child Protective Services or something like.
Yeah, that's why she's like, I'm gonna let the school know why I'm doing this, so they don't think that it's just like me being disrespectful and thinking that I don't have to do something.
Nice meeting y'all.
You
Nice
as
meeting
well.
you. I'm not gonna throw, I know the banana gives a smell, I'll take, like, I first.